application that would allow us to search for movies, right? We're looking at how to implement this in Angular. We looked at how to do it in jQuery, and where we were able to search for movies in using the IMDb database web service, and we would have to get the results down at the bottom, right? And we could favorite these, right? And they would appear up here in my list of favorites. So for instance, if I favorite this one, it would then add it to my favorite list and so on and so forth, right? Remember that? This is what we did last time we met. And we were about to look at how to look at the details of each one of these, right? Like actors and things like that. But we only got so far as displaying the title of the movie, right? So we clicked on this, and then we were able to get a hold of the title, right? And this data, even though we have a copy locally, right? And why even go for it? Is because then we don't only want what we have locally, we want more, right? We want actors, directors, script writers, and also, any reviews, and we would like to fetch that, and we don't want to store any of that in our database because it already lives in somebody's database, right? Why replicate it here? We would only replicate here enough to go fetch all this stuff, right? Or perhaps we might decide to cache locally things such as, well, definitely the ID, right? Because otherwise we can't go fetch anything, right? But we might want to store locally. We might want to cache the thumbnail, right? We might want to cache the maybe the title, perhaps in a local database, but everything else, right? We would go and fetch it to IMDb. So anything that we would need to really very quickly show a list or summary list, we would store in our local database. Everything else we could go fetch at the remote database. Make sense? Also, anything that is related to this, right? If any of our users, right, commented on these movies or reviewed it, or right, in our local community that are users in our databases, right? All of that would need to be stored in our local databases because none of that lives in IMDb. That would have to be we have to be stored here. Perhaps using the IMDb as a key, right? As a key saying that these 3 users reviewed that particular movie, right? And you would have tables that would create that relationship, right? Anyway, so let's take this a little further. Notice that we're using 3 features on the same page, right? One is the search and search results. That's a feature, right? The fact that I can list these, list the ones that are my favorite, that's another feature. And the fact that I can look at the detail, that's another feature, right? So typically these would live in their own dedicated pages, right? Perhaps this might live in my profiles page, right? Where I have information about me and the things that I like, correct? This details could also live in a completely different page, like a details page for a movie, right? Where I can list reviews and comments and all sorts of things, right? And the search page also would live in its own, right? So what we would like to be able to do is split this into 3 different pages, okay? Before we do that, let's play around a little bit more with the details page, and then we'll move into splitting it up into 3 dedicated pages. The exercise of splitting it up into various pages and being able to navigate amongst these 3 pages, that's going to be routing. That's the capability of being able to route your requests, right, to different pages that would handle those requests. And it's not the way we would typically do it in server-side technologies, right? Again, this is a single-page application. Everything is done on the client side, right? We never refresh the page. Okay, so we'll see that a little bit later. All right, so let's look at a little bit about the details. Let me just copy 40, and I can stop this, and I'll rename it to be 050, and this is where I'm going to add the details. And there is a accompanying, I'm guessing there's an accompanying JavaScript. Oh, there isn't. Oh, there is. Okay, so copy, paste. And this would be 50, right? You can see that. And so let's open that up, and let's open up that. Now this is referencing the new JavaScript. And when we click on, when we view the details, we are feeding it where? Into this details, right? Into this details object. Remember that, right? Well, here's when we click on the button, right? This is the button. The button is where? Let's see. The button. So this is where I display all my favorites, right? Display all my favorites. And here's a button, right, that allows me to remove a movie from my favorites or show the details of a particular movie, right? And that is, this event handler is being handled by this event handler in the controller when I pass the movie, and the movie has the ID in there embedded in the object, right? Now that object doesn't have everything, right? Or does it? Actually, let's display that movie in the console. Let's see what's in there. Maybe it already has everything. We don't have to fetch anything. Movie. Let's display here. So we're going to look up avatar. And we're going to fetch that. We're going to add this one to our favorite. And we're going to click on, let's look at the console. I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to say preview or details. And, oh, it's 50. Sorry. It's 50, right? Let's do that again. Avatar, we're going to say favorite, and then I'm going to clear this and say, look at the details. And actually, you know what? I think everything is here. But I think you get more information if you fetch the object. All right, let's see what this is, the object that we already have. Right, we already have all this information. We have the plot, genres, and so on and so forth. Writers, do we have the writers? Yeah, I think we have writers. We have the actors. I don't think we have the actors, do we? I don't think we have the actors. What about the details? Let's print the details that comes back. Let me print the details. Let's see what's the difference. Let's see if we get more information. Actually, we can just look at the what came through the network, right? We can look at the last query. This is what came back. Let's see. Do we have directors? Okay. Do we already have directors? Did we already have directors? We did. One director says. One director. But in the network that came back, it says that, yeah, it's just one director. Filming locations. I don't think we had that. Genres, IMDb, languages. Language. Do we have that? Languages, English, German. Do we have that? Let me see. Oops. Console. Languages. Yeah, they're there. English, German, genres. We have that. I'm just seeing if we even have to go fetch anything. Metascore, original title, blah, blah, blah. Simple plot, running time, release date, writers. So, okay, so we don't even get the, well, even if it's the same object, right? Even if it's the same object, typically there would be two different URLs, and that's what we're doing, right? On one of them, we're using to do the search, and we get the objects that match, right? And then we fetch the details for that one particular movie, right? Typically, when you're fetching a particular movie, typically you get more information, right? Things that you would not get in the previous one, in the previous search. Typically, in that first search, typically is just a summary, right? Just a list, maybe just titles, maybe directors, just some summary information. So typically, you get just two different URLs for two different things. One is a search with a result, with a summary result, and then a details, right, for that particular ID for that particular movie, right? And APIs are very they typically do this, right? And split different URLs for different for different uses. So we're going to use this pattern, even though it looks like you get the same information, right? We already have this information locally. We're going to follow this pattern anyway because usually it would be split up into various URLs for different queries. Okay. All right. So here's details, and in details, I might in the details. I might, have maybe a bigger poster, right? So let's do that. Where's our detail? So here's details. Right now, we're just displaying the title, but definitely we have the poster. So let's have here IMGB, ng source. Notice that we're using ng source, not source, right? Because this is going to be a template. We're not going to have the source by the time this loads, right? We're only going to have the URL for the source when we display the details. Then this will be populated, right? So we don't want the browser complaining that there's no source, right? So the source will be in the details dot what was it called? I think it's called URL poster. Right, URL poster. So let me put that details poster. MG. Okay, what else? Details. Do we forget if you have to? Yeah, you have to put the curly brackets. So here's a curly bracket and curly bracket. And we might display also the director. So maybe, or the plot, right? So here's a plot. We would put here maybe details, plot. What else? We might have rating. So we might have rating, details. What's the object like? What else do we have? Console. Do we have rating here? We have directors, countries, genres. All right, we can display genres, languages. So we're looking for rating, rate it. Rate it. We can display languages, UL, LI, NG, repeat. Language, right? In details languages, details. That languages, right? And in here will be the language, right? What else? What object? What else do we have? We have the year that it was. We can have the genres too. So here we could have like a little title. So this would be languages. We can have here genres. So this would be genre in details genre. What is it? Genres. Genre. Okay. What else? What else could we put in here? Languages, plot, running time, writers, maybe. Year, the year that it came out, right? So maybe let's put year it came out. Details, year. Okay. So let's do this again. Let's refresh and search for something here. Avatar. Search. All right, and we click on. Let's put this in our favorites, and we click on here for the. So there we are. So we have Avatar, The Last Airbender, the genres, the plot, the URL. The image looks kind of funny. Let's see. How could we display it a little better? Maybe what we could do is have maybe here have a row, right? So maybe a div class a row, right? And in that row we could have two columns perhaps. So we could have div class a column on the left hand side, right? Of size maybe 4, and maybe on the right hand side we can have the remainder space occupy. So we could have maybe the image in here, the image on the left-hand side, right? And maybe we could have everything else, right? Everything else, right, on the right-hand side. How's that? Oops. Now this languages, right? Notice that it's displaying even if we don't have any data. Languages, see that? That looks ugly. So what we could do is we could say, you know, we could say span ng only show it, right? Only show that if there is a details. But it's not going to display, right? It's not going to display. Or maybe we could do is just not show the details at all until there is some details, right? We can show things on and off, right? So we can just take this out of here, right? And we could say the whole thing, the whole details, perhaps we can put it inside of a div, right? And say, well, we're not even going to show the details, right? We're not even going to show the details unless there's a details object, right? At first it's null, so we could say ng show, only show it if it's details. Now what this says is that, you know, if details exist, meaning it's not undefined, it's not null, right? It's not empty string, right? Meaning it's truthy. When JavaScript we say it's truthy, meaning it's none of those, right? It's not zero, it's not false, it's not right. It's something different. It has some data associated. So there it is. So details doesn't show at all, right? And we could probably do the same thing with favorites, right? Not show favorites unless there is a favorites, right? So we could have this div here, right? And just not even show it, right? Unless there's a favorite. So ng show only if there is a favorites, right? So favorites, the favorite movie. Wait a minute. Repeat blah 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 for favorite movies, right? So that's the array. Save it. ng show favorite movies. Favorite movies. So favorite movies. Do we have favorite movies? Details. Oh, we do, don't we? Okay, detailed movies. So we probably want to say if detailed movies length, right? Length is greater than 0. There it is. So it's no, there is no. We don't have a favorites section unless we favorite something. All right. So we have avatar again. Search, and so if I favorite this one, now we have a favorites movie. It appears. You see that? So notice that we could logically make certain sections appear and disappear depending on values in the model, right? We can show and hide different sections, right? Depending on what the model is, right? And that's the basis of routing, right? Routing, right, allows us to programmatically, logically decide, you know, to hide or show entire pages, right? That we can say, oh, you want to navigate where? Oh, that's the URL. Oh, that means you want to see this portion of the page or that other portion of that other page, right? And then show and hide strategically, right, depending on what it is that you want to see. So it'll behave as if you're navigating to different pages and you're loading different content. And well, you are really loading different content, but without ever reloading the page, right? So I can keep adding things here, right? There it is. So, and then notice that the details section is not showing until I click on, right? And then I fetch and it refetches everything and reloads the page. That makes sense? Okay. Again, we can strategically show and hide things depending on what it is that we need. All right. And that's going to be the basis of routing. Okay. All right. All right. So let's start splitting this into separate pages. All right. Let's do that. Okay. For that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off a brand new directory here. I say add, and so it says ng routing. ng, so that you know it's Angular, right? And routing is the feature. Okay. All right. To do that, to do routing, we're going to need an additional framework, right? Angular has been growing, right? And so they decided to split the framework into smaller modules, right? So it used to be that it was already part of the core module, but now Angular has matured. It's pretty big, and so they split it up. The feature of being able to route things was split up into a different into its own dedicated module. And I don't know if I already downloaded it. Let me see. We go to JS. I did not download it. So let's download it. Right. So let me close that. And let's download the routing mechanism. So we'll go to AngularJS, and we're going to say download. And so if I download this, it's going to just download the core module, right? The core framework. But here's you can browse for additional modules. If you click here, there's quite a few other things that allow you to do animation, do all sorts of things, right? We are going to download the routing. There it is. These guys over here. Okay. So I'm going to download the minified version. Right? I'm going to download it. I'm just going to save it. Save it locally. Essentials.js. Exactly. That's where I want it. I'll save that. And also, I'm going to download the map. Right. But actually, let me download everything. Okay, I downloaded it. And now that I downloaded it, I'm going to refresh this so that there it is, right? There they are, route. Okay. There they are. And now I'm going to create an example experiment and routing. I'm going to create an initial file here. Add HTML. So 000.html, and here is Angular routing. So let's do simple routing, right? Very, very simple routing. So for instance, let's say we have a web page that has, I don't know, 2-3 pages, right? Maybe a home, an about, and a contact. Okay, and up to this point, in a single page application, we've done everything in a single page. Yes, but we want to, when you start getting into larger projects, it makes no sense to have everything in one page. It just gets out of hand. Right? You want to split it up into different pages. Even though we can, we have the power and the technology to make believe like we have different pages, right? Because we can ng show this and ng show that depending on various logic. That really gets with larger applications, it's just not feasible, right? So we do want to be able to split it up into different actual pages. Okay, so let's do that. Let's load the framework here. Let's see. Let's load a Bootstrap first. Href, go up one, another one, CSS, and then Bootstrap. Okay. And this is style sheet. Okay. Maybe also, what else do we have here? I guess the theme. Let's get the theme. And the rel. Style sheet. There we go. What else do we need? Let's load the framework, right? Let's load the JavaScript framework. So script source. So let's go up one, another one, go down into JS, and load Angular. Angular, there it is, right? And then load the routing library, right? Let's load that as well. So script source, another one go up, JS, Angular route. There it is. Okay. All right, so those are the minimum libraries that we need. Let's we're gonna have to create. Let's see, we have to create an application, an Angular application. Let's do that. Let's say that this is going to be our Angular application, right? ng app, and we're gonna call it routing app. Okay, and we're gonna have here a div ng controller, and this is going to be my routing app controller or routing controller. Okay, and I'm going to use here the class container so that it Bootstrap can display it pretty for me, right? And let's say that we're going to have here just a hello, just to see that that the app has loaded. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's create our application inside of a file called source000.js. So this one will accompany this 000.html, right? So this is the JavaScript for this file. Let's create it right next to it. So I'm going to say add JavaScript, and I'll call it 000. And in here, we're going to declare the Angular application. We say var, here's the application, and it's going to be angular module. What do we call it? Routing app. Is that what I called it? And at first, we're not going to have it depend on anything, right? But actually, it is going to depend on something because we're going to use another module which we're loading, which is the routing module, right? And it's going to go here. Right? This is where we're going to say, hey, this top level module depends on the routing module, right? So load that too. Okay, load that as well. But for now, let's just make it really, really simple. Let's just make sure that the controller is working, right? The minimum, the absolute minimum Angular application. Let's have app.controller, the controller, and we call it what? Routing controller. Is that what I called it? In the function, right? And to be able for my controller to talk to the UI is through the scope variable, right? And with the scope variable, we can send data to the client, to the front end, to say that scope.hello is equal to hello from routing controller. Okay, so let's run this. Let's see if it works. It didn't work. Something went wrong. Let's see. What's it complaining about? Console, blah, blah, blah. ng routing. Hell. I'm going through hell. There it is. Hello from routing controller. Okay, so it is working. There it is. All right. Okay, so what we want to do here is, here's an H1, right? And perhaps we have, so here's routing, Angular routing, right? That's the title of this experiment. And perhaps we have several links to different pages, yes? That would allow us to navigate between the pages. So what we want to be able to do is something like this. We want to say, we would like something like ahref, right? And navigate to other pages, right? Have links to this page, right? So for instance, maybe I want to go to the about page, right? This is how we would typically do it. Right? You would go to about.html. So we say about. Maybe maybe there's a navigation that appears on every page. Perhaps it's reused, right, through all the pages, perhaps, yeah. So we might have maybe we have a home. So we have maybe a home, which is maybe this one. Maybe you have this about. So this is home. This is about, and maybe you have contact, right, and then contact. So this is the classical way you would do it, correct? And this, instead of HTML, these might be ASPXs or JSPs or whatever, right? But this would cause the page to reload, right? This would cause a GET request to the server, right, for a brand new document, correct? Which would replace the current document, and that's what we want to avoid. We don't want to do this. You know, we want to stay in this page, but show the content of some other page, basically, right? That's what we want to do, and that's what the routing module allows us to do. Okay, so let's see how the routing module works. Now, typically, routing if you've done a model view controller, right? If you've done model view controller, typically there is a you never do this, right? You never have the pages know about the navigation, right? It's a bad practice, right? The pages shouldn't know where to go, right? That it is dependent on another page, right? Or that it knows that if this event happens, the navigation should occur, right? It should notify some centralized controller who knows about the navigation, right? That's a very classical design where you centralize the navigation, through a central dispatcher, right? That is like a traffic cop that knows, depending on various events, what should happen, right? Instead of spreading that logic across many pages, right? So imagine that this is here, then it repeats again in another page, and then it repeats again in another page. To modify that, right? Say if you want to insert a page, or if you want to, right? It would be very, very hard to change the logic, right? Instead, we're going to use a centralized controller that will know that when a page notifies that, hey, I would like to see the about page. I don't know where it is, but I would like to see the about page. That's where I would like to navigate. That's the event, right? That's a generic event. It is the controller's responsibility to decide, oh, that page lives over there, physically over there, right? To resolve where things live, right? That's a very typical design pattern in model view controller architectures. So the Angular's routing mechanism works based on that design pattern, right? It declares a centralized controller, and it says, and it does the mapping, right? If this is the navigational logic, then this should show, right? If this is the navigational logic, this is what should show, and whatnot, right? So it maps events to what to view. What's the next view? All right. All right. So let's work on this. Okay. So let's look up the Angular documentation for ng routing. So it says AngularJS ng routing. ng route. And so, right, so we did that already, right? We installed it. And so what we need to do is your application now needs to depend on this module. What happened? Where'd it go? Yeah, so your application, right? So in that array that has been empty for quite a couple of weeks, right? We're gonna now tell it that the application depends on the routing framework, right? Which has been split up, right? So let's go back to our application, and we're gonna say that we depend on that module, and this module, right, is declared in this JavaScript which we loaded. There it is, Angular route. Right. So if you say that you depend on that, but do not load the JavaScript, it's going to complain. It says, I don't see a declaration for an ng route module. Where is it? Right. So that means you're missing the library. Right. Okay. Okay. So so we loaded that. Now we need to configure. We need to configure the routing. Right? We need to configure and say, when this happens, navigate over here. When this happens, navigate over there. Right. So let's do that. Routing configuration. Wait, step 7? No. Do we have it here? Wait a minute. Where is it? Oh yeah, there it is. So the way it works is that you configure it by using the application's config. You say app config configuration config, right? And configure the centralized controller. This is the centralized controller that's going to be responsible, right, for handling your events, right? That says if this happens, I want to navigate here. If that happens, I want to navigate over there. Okay. And what's going to happen is that we have to declare. Now there's a lot of things that can be configured. the way you configure the many things that can be configured is by providing the name of what you're configuring. We're configuring now the routing mechanism, right? So over here, the first argument says, what is it that you're configuring, the route provider. And the route provider allows you to say, when you see this on the URL, this is the HTML that you should show, right? And that's the controller that is dedicated to that particular page, right? Just like we declare in HTML that we say that our little piece, right, our little HTML piece is controlled by this controller. Well, each individual page, right, should be controlled by their own respective controllers, right? So, for instance, the about page will be controlled by the about controller, right? The contact page will be controlled by the contact controller, and so on and so forth. Everybody okay? Right? Okay. So, for instance, we might say things such as, and notice that we're going to put the HTML. Now, these are partials. Partials, meaning these are not entire HTML documents. These are going to be injected into a bigger HTML document, which is going to be our host HTML page, this one over here, right? So what we're going to do, right? What we're going to do is we're going to replace this entire thing. We're going to say, I'm going to remove the controller, I'm going to leave the class container, right? And we're going to take everything away. We'll take everything away. We're going to leave it empty, and that's it. That's our application. We're going to inject, right? We're going to inject into this empty div the various pages, right? We're going to dynamically load, right, the home, the contact, the about HTML, right, into here, right? So this is going to be our view, our ng view, right, which is going to display either the home page, or it's going to display the about or the contact, right, depending on our navigation. Make sense? Right? So, for instance, so right here we're putting it under partials. We could, let's see, we could have it. I guess we could put it under partials. The name of this directory doesn't have to be called partials. It could be called whatever you want. I'm going to create here a partials directory. I'm going to say partials, right? And in here, we're going to create 3 pages. We're going to create 3 dummy pages. One is going to be home.html, right? And we're just going to throw everything away. The only thing I'm going to put here is h1 home. Okay? And I'm going to copy this several times. This one is going to be about HTML. And I'm just going to change it, about. And I'm going to copy this and paste it, and it's going to be contact. It's going to have contact. Yes? So 3 dummy pages, and depending on the navigational, we'll show one or the other. Okay? So let's go back to our centralized controller. It says, okay, what we're going to do is / meaning if you don't tell me where you are, I guess we could give it names. We could say, if you ask for home, I will give you home.html. And let's not have a controller just yet. Let's have point it out. And if you ask for about, I'll give you about.html. And no controller for now. And if you're asking for contact, then we'll go to contact. Otherwise, meaning if it's none of them, right? If there's no match, right? If there's no pattern that matches, right? We're just going to go to home. Okay? If nothing matches, we're just going to go home. Everybody okay? All right? And redirect home is going to just come here, and it's going to load home.html. Make sense? Right? All right. So let's see. So let's go back. There it is. We're home. Notice that we slash went home, or if we say, notice the way it works. We have home, we have about, we go to about, or we go to contact. Right? Notice how it's working. You see how it's working? We never leave 000.html. You see that? The page, we never leave the page, right? We navigate to different areas of the same page. You see that? This is a mechanism that has been around for quite a while, right? In browsers. Browsers typically use this to navigate to different sections in the same page, right? Right. Well, the way this would work is that you could list various sections in your page using anchors, right? Giving names to your anchors, correct? And then you can create links that would take you directly to a section in a page by giving the URL of the page, yes, and then hash the section in that page, and it would scroll, right? It would scroll and jump around this in the same document, correct? Without reloading the page. That's right, right? You could use it as a table of content at the top, right? When you click, it loads back and forth. Well, what Angular does, or the routing mechanism does, it listens for changes in the hash, right? Just like the URL can change, and you have a window dot location, right, which allows you to change the location and listen for changes in the location. You can also listen. JavaScript allows you to create event handlers on changes on the hash. Has the hash changed? Right. If it changes, you can then parse it, right, and say, okay, well, give me the hash. What is the hash? Right. And so Angular uses this mechanism to be able to navigate between different templates, right? So now we have successfully split our large document, right? Our large website, right? Into several templates that can be loaded into dynamically. Yes. Yes, yeah, like a bookmark, exactly. Yep. And so Angular does extends this mechanism, right? So that you could, the general pattern is that you use the URL to store, right, the state of the application, right? So that all the information you ever need to be able to go back to a particular state of the application is encoded in the URL. Right, so you would encode here, right, something like some ID, okay, and that ID can then be used by the application, to query, something from the database, right? Whoever was logged in at the time, and what page were they looking at that particular time? What was the actual data that they were looking at that particular time, right? And even though these pages are not hard coded, right, that they have to be recalculated, right? Typically you would have to have enough information in the URL, right, to be able to recreate the state, whatever the state the application was at the time of the bookmarking, right, where you can bookmark this in your URL or send this URL to somebody, right, and click on it and recreate the application at that particular state, right? That's the general mechanism. All right, so up to this point, we haven't been able to navigate just yet, right? We still have to be able to navigate. Right, and so what we want to be able to do is in our home and whatnot, right? We would like to have some navigation. So let's create a nav here, right? That would allow us to, navigate between these, right? So you might have something like this, right? href. I still want to use hyperlinks, right? But instead of these being, actual URLs, right, of an actual documents, right? We just want to notify. We just want to notify the central controller of our intention. it is the controller's responsibility to then decide where she should go. Okay, so for instance, we might say that hash home. Notice that we're not actually going anywhere, right? We're not going to any documents. I'm going to change the hash though, and the controller, right, the centralized controller, the routing provider, will catch this event handler, this event, and will, right, navigate us to the right place. So home, if I click on home, or if I want to go about, right, this is about, or this is contacts for contact. So notice that we're never, our page is not aware of any other pages, right? It's just notifying the event, right? Hey, they clicked on this, all right? What should happen? I don't know, right? So the pages are independent of each other, right? So if I go back to home, notice that the forward and backwards still works. So the back buttons and the forward buttons work, right? It used to be a nightmare, right, to handle back buttons and a forward button in single page applications, right? We were kind of like always telling the user, please don't click on the back button, right? Because we were maintaining state, right? And if they navigated away, and the whole thing would be resubmitted, right? And everything would have to be reprocessed. We would have to, it was just a nightmare. Now it's not an issue, right? Because the history is aware of the hash changes, right? So the navigations forwards and backwards works just like they normally do, right? The URL is stored in the history, right? So any URL information, IDs or state information is maintained in the URL. So we would be able to recreate the application, right? Going back to a particular history, right? So it would work just fine. So anyway, so let's reload this. Let's reload this. So notice that if I click on contact, it navigates to the contacts, right? Fine, right? And I could copy this into the other ones. Right, so that if I go to contact and I reload, there they are. So I can navigate to about. So now I can navigate to each one of the contacts. So it behaves exactly like we would expect, right? But using single page application mechanisms instead of the classical let's reload the entire page mechanism. Make sense? Right? Okay. Obviously, you might say, well, what a pain having to load this every time. So can't we put this in somewhere where it's always there? So perhaps what we could do is put it in here, right? So that right, we could put it outside. We could put it outside. Maybe over here, perhaps we can say take that away, and what we could do is put in the ng view, put it in here, div the ng view here, ng view here, right, and put the navigation here, and now it's shared amongst all the pages. See that? I don't have to copy and paste it everywhere. Or another technique could be that each one of these can include, right? Just like you do server-side includes, here you can do client-side include, right? You can say, oh, there's this, piece of HTML that I would like to include in my page. So I'm removing all these. So now it's centralized, right? So I can navigate to about and contact from anywhere. See that? Right? Okay. So that's the basics of navigation. Everybody okay? All right. So let's use that mechanism to actually build something. All right. Let's see. Let's go back to our movie searching application, right? Right. So let's bring that over. Let's bring that over. Let's see. So, okay, we have 00 HTML. Let's create another one. Let's create here another page. So we'll say 001. HTML. Okay. And let's copy much of what we had done here. Let's see. We need that, right? We need that. All right, so I'm just going to copy that over here. And so we will say that this is movie routing. Okay. And let's see, what else should we copy? Let's see. We need the application, right? We need an application, so we'll do that in 001, right? What else do we need? Let's see. So we'll have a container in the view, right? Of that, and we'll put that in here. We'll copy that here. We'll paste that here. The container, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we have a home. Maybe in the home we have the search, right? Maybe we have that in the search. Maybe we have a profile, right? Maybe what else? In the profiles, we can list the things that are, things that are my favorites, right? And then there's a details page, but the details page would be typically navigated from, from an individual a movie, right? If I click on a particular movie, I would navigate to the details page of that movie, right? I can't navigate to a details page unless there is a movie to navigate from, right? Make sense? Okay. Okay. So the ng view is empty. All right. And where do we want to put the partials? Let's see. Let's put the partials. Let's put it inside of movie. All right. So let's create a directory here where we have the movie partials in here. Okay. So we might have in here. Let's see. HTML. We have the home.html. And what else do we have? Let's empty this, right? So here we're going to put where you can search, right? So here, well, you have home, right? And maybe you have a search bar down below. You're going to have a search bar down here. So search bar, search field here, and results go here, right? Okay, go here. And then we're going to have a, let's see, we have another HTML page where we have the profile, so profile.html, and the profiles page, we're going to have maybe our favorites, right? Our favorites. So we have here maybe H1 profile, and we have here H2 my favorite movies. Okay? Right? All right. Okay. All right. So let's see. Favorite movies. All right. So what we need to do here is, and we need one more page, right? We need a details page. We need a details page. So we're going to have here add another thing here is this details page. So we have details.html. So this is H1 and details page. And so here are details for a given movie. Okay? Okay? All right. All right then, let's see. And so we're going to need a JavaScript for this, right? We said that we would put it inside of 001. Yes? So let's create that too. All right, so let's create a JavaScript here, 001, a JavaScript, and we'll call it 001. There it is. Right? And there's an application. What do we call the application? I forget. Did we give it a name? I don't remember. We didn't even give it a name, right? So this is my movie app, okay? How about that? So it's ng app, movie app, and the ng view. So I need to create that movie app. Let's create it. So it's going to be var app equal Angular modules, and this is going to be movie app, and then this depends on ng-route. Oops. ng-route. All right, and then we need to configure it, right? We need to configure it. Let me copy that. Let me just copy that. And I think this is module. And I'm going to configure. I'm going to say, oh, I didn't copyright. Oops, it's I forgot to copy that. There we go. I'm going to say, okay, if you go to home, we're going to go what page? Which page should we go? Movie home HTML. Yes, that's where we want to go. Oops. Right? So we're going to go to movie or movies? Movie. Okay, movie home. There it is. If we go to profile, we're going to go to profile HTML. So profile HTML. And if we go to details, right? We would go to a details page. So this would be movie and then details page. And this is movie. Oh, wait, this is movie, right? Movie. There we go. And otherwise, we just go home. Okay. Let's see if that works. Let's see if it blows up. 001. Let's see if it blows up. 1.html. Okay, home. Profile. Oops, something's not working. Oh, did I put the links? Oh, it's profile. Yes. Let's see, profile. There we go. But yeah, so I can navigate, and presumably there's a details, right? So details. So I can go to the details. Okay. Everybody okay? All right, it works. The only thing that the details, though, we're gonna have to kind of like pass it the details of what, right? Somehow we need to maintain that state information, right? We'll see how we handle that in a minute. Let's do the search. All right, so the search. So we have that, right? So we have that. Let's break this up. Let's go on to the next one, right? So I'm trying to go step by step, right? So we have this is the basic navigation, right? Let's go on and add controllers to this, right? Because each one should have its own controller, right? So let's do that. Let's have here. Let's copy this, right? Just copy both. And this becomes the 002, and this will be 002. There it is. And 002 is going to load 002.js, right? Let's see if that works. 2. So that looks like it works. Home, profile still works. Okay? All right. All right. So what we need to do, let me close that. We don't need any of this. So close all but this. We do need the JavaScript. What we need to do is says, okay, in the home, we're going to need to be able to handle the search mechanism, right? We need to have a search field. We need to show the results from that search. Yes, we did a lot of that, didn't we? Right, we have a lot of that. So how do we do that? Let's see. Way out here in Angular, in 50 over here, right? Didn't we do that? How do we do that? Let's see. We had over here a search movie and an input field and a button to do that, right? So let's copy that, right? Also, we had a table that would display all this, right? So let's copy all that stuff, huh? Because we already had a lot of that. So let's copy that. Okay. I'll just paste it in here, right? We are in, where does that go? In the home, right? It goes in the home. So let's go in the home. In the home template, let's go home, movie, home. Right? Search field, search row, right? So I'm going to remove that. And what does this do? Let's see. It's the input group. It's the input field, right? And it ties this to a search to the controller. Oh, that means we need a controller. We need a controller for this, don't we? Right? Because look at this. This function is also going to invoke something, that search controller, right? Right? So where do we have that? We had it in the JavaScript, right? We had it in JavaScript. Let's see that. Where was that? It was this one, wasn't it? It was this controller over here, right? Right. So let's see. We need a controller. We need a controller. So let's declare a controller. The way we declare a controller, we need a home controller, basically, right? We need a controller that handles the home controller. So let's do that. Let's declare a home controller. The way we do that, okay? The way we do that is in the JavaScript. In the JavaScript, we say, hey, this home page is going to be handled by a home controller. Home control. Okay, so somewhere I need to declare the home controller. And we know how to do that, right? We can just go and say right here, we can say app.controller, right? And we can give it a name. What is it called? Home CTRL, right? Function scope, right? And in here, so there it is. So this is the home controller. So let's say alert, right? Hello from home controller, right? So if I go home and refresh, it says hello from the home controller. So we have that controller going, right? If I navigate to any other page, profile, home, only when I get to the home, right, does that controller, even though we're not reloading the page ever, right? We're never reloading the page, right? The controller gets instantiated every time I navigate to that page, right? It gets rerun, right? And we have here, let's see, we have that search, we have that table, right, that we use to render this, but we don't have any of the event handlers, right? In the home page, right? Let's see, we're supposed to have this function, right? And we're supposed to have this search by title in the scope, right? But we don't have this function, but we did declare that function somewhere. Where did we declare that? We already did that, didn't we? In this controller, didn't we? It's here somewhere. Where is it? There it is, search movies, right? That's what it was, right? So I'm just gonna copy that. I'm lazy today. So I'm gonna paste that in here. So that's gonna be the event handler. What's it gonna do? It's gonna grab the title from the scope search by title, right? Which is here. We're in home, sorry. There it is. This one, search by title. It's gonna grab that. It's going to use that as part of the URL that to invoke to search by title, and it's going to bind the response to the movies, right? And then movies is going to be rendered in home. There it is. It's going to be rendered by iterating over it. Where is it? By iterating over it. There it is. It's iterating over it, right? So it should work as is. Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's reload. We have avatar. No, didn't work. Do I need to reload? Let's see. See where it fails. Let's see. What does it say? Console. Blah 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 blah. HTTP is not defined. Oh, okay. Yes, our controller. Right, declared scope, but didn't declare HTTP. HTTP. Try it again. So we have Titanic. There it is. So it is working, right? It was working. It was working just like we were doing, like it was earlier. Now we can still remove. Oh no, we can remove, right? Because that's where. That's also in the controller, right? It was a remove or something. Wasn't it a remove? So let me copy that as well, right? Then we have like a remove, add movie. We have remove movie, right? We had all of that, right? So let's copy all that. Let's have add movie, remove movie, select movie, update movie. Okay? So I'm going to copy that in the controller. Or should it go in that controller? Should it go in that controller? Should it go in that controller? We're going to quickly realize that these controllers are going to be, they have to be talking to one another. And as we notice, every time they load, right, the entire thing gets reloaded, right, gets reinstantiated. So there is no state information between them, right? So as you navigate to a controller, there's no way for that controller to remember anything, right, because it gets reinstantiated from that. So they would have to talk to one another somehow, right? So for instance, favoriting, if I want to favorite, right, if I want to favorite, where's the favorite? Add to favorite. We're going to need this over here, right? Add to favorite. Let's have that. I don't want to copy everything, right? Let's put it here. And if we have add to favorite. Add to favorite, right? Add to favorite. We can display that somewhere, right? In the home, we can say favorites. We can display to see if it's working, right? We can display maybe here. Favorites. Is that what it's called? No, favorite movies. Right, so if I search, notice right now it's empty, right? If I search aliens, and I favorite, notice that it is working, right? It's being added to the array. So that's working. But where do I want to see that? I want to see that in the profiles. I don't want to see it here, right? I want to be able to navigate it to the profiles and display my favorites here, okay? But if you notice, these controllers, right? The profile is gonna have its own controller, right? Because not only gonna display my favorites, it's gonna display my profile information, right? Anybody who I'm following, any reviews I've made, any comments I've made, right? So not only my favorites, it's supposed to grab a whole bunch of stuff, right? So these two pages need to share information, right? So how can we do that? Right now, there's no way for these to share any information. My favorites array lives where? In the home controller, right? I don't have access to this. What we could do is put it in a global scope. We could do that, right? But that in general is considered to be a bad practice, right? You're littering the global scope. Although we could do that. One way to do it is, which is more kosher, is to instead of doing all this stuff, right? Of going directly to the servers from here, okay? Going directly to the servers from here and manipulating the model right from here, right? One typical way of a design feature that we might want to use is what are called factories or services, right? Angular services, right? Where you put all this stuff, right? This might not be the only place where you might search for a movie, right? So instead of putting it only in this controller, you put it in a shared service, right? And this shared service can then be used by any controller, right? So let's do that. Let's move this. Let's move all this mechanism back in a service where a service can then be shared amongst all controllers. Okay. All right. Let's do that. So for that, I'm going to create another one here, another experiment. So this I'll copy these two, right? And I'll call this 003, and I'll call this 003 here. Oops. 003. And then in the HTML, I'll make this 003. All right. All right. So let's see. 003. All right. So let's change this a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to create a service. We're going to create a service, and we'll put them. Where should I put them? I'll put it here. I'll just say here's JavaScript. I'll call it 003 service.js. Okay. So to do that, let's look at the documentation for services. All right, so to declare a service, yeah, there it is. Okay. What we do, right, is that we declare a factory, right? Right. What we do is that we say my app factory. This creates a singleton, right? It creates one instance. We're going to call this the movie service, right? And it's just going to be a function. It's going to be a function, movie service, right? And what this is going to do is going to provide services that are common to everybody, right? Like add favors, remove favors, things like that. And all controllers are going to share this, right? So for instance, let's move the search over here, right? From here, we're going to move this search movie stuff, right? All this. We're going to move out of here. We're going to move it into the service. Right? And this is going to be just a regular function, var. It's a regular function. It is going to need HTTP. It's going to need HTTP. It is going to need a title, so we're going to pass it as an argument. Okay? So we're going to pass this as an argument, a title. Okay? And it's going to respond, right? It's going to respond. We don't have the scope, so what the typical way of doing it is two ways of doing it. One of the ways is that we're going to pass a callback, meaning this is an asynchronous call, right? So meaning this is going to take a couple of seconds, right? And I don't want to break, right? So I want you to notify me, right, when you're done with the response. So I'll send you a callback where you can notify me, right? And you can notify me there. So what we're going to do is going to say, okay, here's the callback. So your notification will be through here, right? You're going to say, you're going to call the callback that I sent you, right? And I'm going to be waiting for that callback to come back to me, okay? All right, so the way we tie this together is that now I'm going to use this movie service in my controller. I'm going to say, hey, I want this, and I want my movie service. Right? It's going to be just like Scope is a service, just like HTTP is a service. I just have created my own service, right? Just like HTTP and Scope can be shared across many of these. I have created a movie service that can be shared across many various controllers, right? And my movie service can search, right? Oh, I deleted. Oh man. I do need this, right? I do need the event handler. I do need to tie this to the UI, right? I do need to tie this into the UI. It's going to go function. What is this going to do? When I click on the search, what it's going to do, right, is going to use the movie service. It's going to use the movie service to search, right? What's it called? Search movie. Search movie. And I'm going to pass it a title. Where's the title? It's from Scope. What's the search title? Search title, right? Isn't that what it's called? Right? And the function is to do what? The response will come back here. The response will come back from the service. And then I'm going to tie it. I'm going to say Scope movies is equal to the response. Right. So what basically I've done is I've just created another layer of abstraction. That's all I've done, right? Right. Notice that what I've done is that instead of doing it here, I moved it into a server. That's all I did, right? That's all I've done. So instead of calling HTTP directly from here, I am delegating another function which is going to do the HTTP call. Right. That's all I've done. Right. But the benefit of this. The only benefit of this is that now movie service is not just in this controller, right? It's not only in this controller. Now it's in a shareable, right, object that can be shared among several controllers. Make sense? Right. That's all I did. Oh, we forgot something. When we create this instance, once we create this instance, this is going to be a constructor, right? It's going to instantiate itself, right? And it's going to be there for the duration of the application. What you need to do is the function is going to return, right? What the function is going to return is going to return right, a map of saying this is the function, and I am exposing this function to you, right? This is like a singleton with information hiding, right? And this function is private, right? Nobody can call this, right? This function only lives in here, right? Right? It's a closure, right? This has no, there's no way that nobody can call this function, right? Right. The only way that they can call this function is that I return it. I return this as in the function call, right? And then I'm giving you a reference to that function, right? And I happen to give you the same name, right? But I can call it whatever I want. I can call it just search. I can call it search, and then from outside, I need to use search. That make sense? Right. Also notice that the curly bracket is next to the return as opposed to in a new line, right? That's not the same, right? Like this, JavaScript interprets it as return immediately with nothing, right? As opposed to this means first create the object and then return that object, right? So careful there, right? So all these are okay to start in a new line, right? But not this one. All right, so be careful there. All right, so let's try this. Let's see if this works. See if this works. Where are we? Was it this one? Was it 3? It was 3, right? So home, and we have aliens. Didn't work. All right, let's see what's going on. Let's look at the example. What's going on? Blah blah blah. It says blah 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 blah. A movie service provided. I can't find movie service. Movie service. Why can't you find it? Oh, you know what we forgot? We forgot to load the movie service JavaScript. Right? Where is that? It's in. Oops. Copy paste service, right? Is that where we declared it? I'll try that again. No. In service, I have I'm looking at scope. Where do I have scope in service? Where do I have scope? Oh, all these guys, right? I'll get to these in a second. Okay, didn't blow up. Let's see. Looks promising. So avatar. All right, so it looks like it's working, right? So it looks like it's working. So we have aliens. Right? Okay, so it looks like it's working. Accident, blah, blah, blah. Wait, was that aliens? Aliens, the undefined. After strange lights, blah, blah, blah. I guess so. Oh, no, alien. Yes? No? I guess I got the same thing? Maybe? Wait a minute. Titanic. I love James Cameron. Titanic. Okay, so it looks like it's working. Wait, why do I get this again? An unfortunate accident, blah, blah, blah. What? No, something is wrong. Why am I always getting the same answer? Oh, title. Title. Is this connected? Maybe it's not connected. Title, callback, home control. I'm passing title, response. What does it? What am I querying? Wait a minute. Let me see the network. IMDb title undefined. Yeah, title is undefined, right? Let's see what's going on. Let's see. Let's step through this, right? Let's step through it. That's a good exercise, right? Let's go to source. Let's go here, and let's go to the controller, and this is going to be invoked. So we can, yes. Search by title. Yeah. Let's look at it. So let me put here avatar go. It clicks here. Scope search title is undefined. Why is that undefined? I didn't declare it. Search title. Home. Oh, search by title. Ugh, I hate computers. They take everything so literally. Okay, let's try that again. So we have alien. All right, that looks better. Aliens. Yeah, okay. So let's say search Titanic. All right, that looks better. Okay, so what I want to be able to do is add to my favorites, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my service, right? And I'm going to create a function here. I'm going to say var add to favorites, right? I'm going to create a favorites here. Var favorites. And I'm going to expose this as a function, right? That is basically going to manipulate its favorites, and I'm going to expose this as a function that can be called from outside. Okay, and it's going to push the movies into here. All right. Okay. And what we want to be able to do here is, so let's see if that works, right? What we're going to do here in the add favorites, it's going to be added there, right? It's going to be added there. We want to get it where? We want to get it back when we go to the profile page, right? We go to the profile page. We want to get it. So perhaps we want something like var get favorites, right? Favorites. So we get a function, and then we just respond with favorite movies. Return favorite movies, and we expose favorites. Okay, there we go. Right. So let's see. Let's make another exercise here, another experiment. So let's go because we're going to create a brand new controller. Let's copy all these three. This is 004. Oops. Ah. Oh no. 004. Where is it? 00. Oh, this one, right? This was a service, I think, right? Yeah, that's a service. So I'll call 004 service. Hello. Service. I'll call this 004, and this will be 004. Environment. And in here, I'm going to load 004 and 004. There we go. Let's see if this works. We'll go to 4. Home. I'm going to search. Alien. Okay. Work. Well, I thought it was going to come back with Mork and Mindy. All right, so yeah, so that still works, right? And I want to be able to add it, right? And as I add it, let's see if it blows up. Okay, so adding doesn't blow it up. So presumably that's being added to that array, right? And what I want to be able to do is when I come back to the profile, I want those favorites to be listed here, right? Okay, so let's do that. Let's create a controller for the. Let's create a controller for the. All right, just like we created a controller for a home, we're going to create a profile controller. Right? So we'll create a profile controller. Profile controller. And that controller will look very similar to this. So let me copy that. So this is a profile controller. It's going to use the same movie service. Notice that we don't need the HTTP anymore, right? So I can remove them from both, right? All that has been abstracted in the movie service. Right? And when I go to the movie service, I want to just console. I just want to see console.log that I have movie service and what was it? Get? What do we call it? Get favorites? I get favorites, right? Let's do that. Let's refresh. Let's go to home. Let's search Alien. Okay, and I want to favorite. And when I go to the profile, empty. Why are you empty? Oh wait, should I have used a service instead? Wait a minute, factory. I'm sorry?
The home controller, you need to set the set favorite function.
In the home controller. In the what do you mean?
You need to call set favorites, right? To push the
Oh, I never added, right? I never did add. Thank you. Yes, correct. Right. So as we are iterating and displaying, right, in the home, as we're iterating and we're searching, and we have a button here to add movie or favorite movie. Where's the favorite movie? Favorite movie. Add to favorite, right? Yeah, we never created this. We never created this. So we need to go to the controller. And in the home controller, we need to say scope.add to favorite function, and then the movie that we want to add, right? Movie. And we're going to call our movie service dot, what do we call it? Do we call it add to service to favorites? Yeah. Add to favorite. Yeah, it's called add to favorite. And I'm going to say the movie. Right? We're just going to add that. Okay. We also need, that's it, right? I think so. Let's try that again. Let's try it again. So let me go to home. With our search. Favorite. Clear the profile. There it is, right? So now we have that object. There it is. It says about that James Bond movie, right? So I can go back home, right? I can go back home, and I can favorite other things. Oh, notice that it doesn't remember my search, right? It'd be great, yes. It'd be nice if I can just go back and have it. You know, it says, wait a minute, it's like I'm going to the same page I was before. You should be able to remember these things, right? So it should be able to like remember these things. So we'll see that in a second. But let me look for something else. We can go to Alien and favorite another movie. All right, so I'm going to favorite that, and I'm going to go to my profile. Go to my profile. Notice that I have two objects now, right? So basically, I need to just display here my favorites, and I have code for that somewhere, don't I? I I have it here, I believe, right? I have here favorites, don't I? Where is it? Movie favorites. Yada, yada, yada. There it is, my div favorites, right? And here's my class. Here's my table that renders all my favorites. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go to my profile page. Where's my profile page? Is here, and I'm just going to paste it here. Right? It's going to table. Did I miss a table? Oh. Table class table striped. And table, and this is going to it's going to iterate over an array of favorites, right? That means that in the controller, when it gets it, here's where it gets it, right? Here's where it gets it. What we're going to do is we're going to assign it to that object. We're going to say scope. We're going to say, hey, scope. We're going to bind it to that object that the UI is expecting, right, to iterate over. We're going to send the get favorites there. Let's try that again. Let's go back here. Let's refresh. Let's look for alien. And Ripley and 3 and that one. Right, if I go to profile, it didn't work. What? Console. Blah, 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 blah. Why? What's going on? Get favorites. Favorites, controller, profile controller. Profile controller. We consoled it, right? Did we display it? We did. Var favorites. Right? Favorite. Console log favorites. Refresh. Okay, it's empty because it's not in a database. Titanic. Okay, and I go here. Oh, well, I don't know why I didn't do it before. Okay, there it is, right? So it remembers it remembers these, right? If I go to so the next thing would be that I want to navigate to details, right? I want to go to details, right? Right now that link doesn't do anything. In the profiles page, what would happen here is that as I iterate and I want to go to details, it used to be that the button had an event handler, right, on the displaying of the details movie, right? Instead, what we want to do is actually navigate. We actually want to navigate, right? So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to navigate. We're going to say href, right? We want to go to the details page, right? But we want to pass along an ID, right? And say, well, which one? The details of what? Okay. So there's two ways of doing this, right? We can say pass the ID, the actual ID, right? I think it's in the IMDb object, I think, somewhere, right? Or we have the favorites in our memory, right? So we could pass the index instead, right? And using the index, I can then go into my array, right, and fetch the movie object and get the ID from there. Correct? We could do it, you know, any which way we want. Perhaps I'll use index. I'll use that as an argument. I want to pass the details page an argument, right? Or we can pass the movie. We can say movie. What was it? IMDb URL. What was it? IMDb ID. Do you remember? IMDb ID. Console. The ID. ID IMDb. There it is. So movie. Oops. IMDb ID. There it is. Right. And this is A. So it's a hyperlink that is going to render like a button. Right? It's a hyperlink that renders like a button, and it's going to navigate me to the details page. But the details page is not expecting an ID. The details page is not expecting an ID. So I need to go back to my controller, right? My navigation controller says, wait a minute, you're expecting an ID, :ID, right? Or maybe we could use the same token, right? You are expecting that ID, right? And that can be used by the controller. That can be used by the details controller, right? That can be used by the details controller to go actually fetch the details, right? Dynamically, and then render all the data there. Okay, so let's do that. If I refresh, everything goes away, right? Because we have nothing stored in the database. So we have here Terminator, and we have favorite, and go to profile. Notice that if I hover over this, see at the bottom, it's a hyperlink. See, details TT13 something or other. If I click on that, it navigates to my details page. Yes, and notice that has a details / the ID over there, right? Okay. The controller in the for the details can parse that out, right, and then go actually fetch the data, right? Well, actually, we already have some data locally, but typically we go and fetch the details. Okay, let's leave it here. We'll come back and do some more when we come back on Friday. All right, thank you.